Hey guys, and welcome to Historical Conspiracies. Today I will be doing 3 stories of police witnessing the scary and paranormal. My name is Kardia. I'll be your guide to this paranormal adventure this evening. So, we're gonna get right into it and get started. This post was posted on Bizbinable by Matina, and she writes, "These stories creep me out, so I wanted to share them with you. These are in no particular order. Number 3. The phone call. My uncle works for dispatch in my town, and he recently told my family of the weirdest call he's ever gotten. He says that he had received a call from a landline one night, and when he answered it, there was only static on the other end. This happened 2 more times. Finally, he calls the squad to go check out the address from the caller ID. When the cops got there and walked into the house, they immediately saw that there was a dead body. The person had been dead for 5 months. The craziest part about it was there was no electricity or any other utility working, so there's no way they would have been able to get those calls to dispatch. But if they hadn't, who knows how long that person's body would have stayed there." Now, that was submitted by Zombie Dance from Reddit. That was a creepy little short story. And now let's go on to number 2. Every time my ear itches, I get goosebumps. My uncle was the sheriff of a town in New Mexico. He was the most hardcore person in our family, super straight-laced, never really BS'd, and wasn't a joker at all. So when he told this story, backed up by my aunt, we all believed it without question. A local reporter named Bob D. would always show up at a major police activity from the police scanner. Big car wrecks, fires, anything worth maybe reporting at the local newspaper. Everybody on the force knew Bob D. He was around at least once or twice a week at various police activities. Bob was a bit of a joker himself. He would mess with people by flicking behind their ears. People would react to the flicks thinking it was a bug, only to turn around and see it was Bob jerking around. Everybody liked Bob. Unfortunately, Bob had bad lung cancer and died pretty suddenly. His wife buried him against his wishes. He wanted to be cremated. For the next couple of weeks, after his funeral, people kept talking about seeing Bob at car wrecks, fires, all the same stuff he used to report on. There were 20 or 30 reports like this from civilians and members of the force. My uncle didn't buy it. Until the night he and my aunt showed up at our house, gun drawn, pale as paper. We asked him what the hell happened, and he had to sit down, take his breath, compose himself, and start to outline what happened. Note: this is a guy that I never saw get rattled by anything. He said, "My aunt and he were sitting on the couch in their house watching TV. My uncle kept scratching at his ear over and over. Finally, my aunt asked him what the problem was, and he turned around just in time to see their bedroom door open. Bob D. standing there in the doorway, clear as day. My uncle jumped up, cursed, got my aunt's attention, who turned to see him there too. As soon as they both made eye contact with him, Bob smiled, turned, walked across the living room and out their front door, closed the door behind himself, and was gone. My uncle got control of himself and ran outside, gun drawn looking for Bob, but he was gone. At that point, they ran over to our place. We went over there and didn't see anything, but my aunt and uncle stayed at our place that night. At work the next day, all the guys in the force were giving my uncle lots of 'we told you so.' People around town said they saw Bob D. show up at police scenes for at least another 2-3 months. My dad saw him in our dark room in our basement with a friend. He was flicking their ears in the dark. During the 3rd month, people that saw him kept saying he was looking worse and worse. My uncle saw him 2 more times, each time confirming he was looking more and more worn. My dad had concluded that he was decomposing, and his ghost was reflecting that process. Every time my ear itches, I get goosebumps." That was submitted by Clock Paradox to Reddit. That last sentence in that story really got me about the decomposing, and I'm wondering, and this is just me personally wondering, was it because he wanted to be cremated and he wasn't? And maybe that was just a last joking way of trying to tell his wife, hey, you should have cremated me? I don't know, is that too morbid? Anyway, that's just my thought process on that. We have that number one story coming up, but before then, I wanted to let you guys know there will be a bonus story right after this one. It's a little bit, well, you know what? I was going to tell you a little bit about it, but I think I'm going to leave it alone, and you guys tell me what you think about this bonus story. But first, let's do number one. He grabbed an axe and chopped him up. Not me, but my dad was a cop for 32 years. This was one of his craziest calls. A call goes out for reported screaming in mid-January. That's important later. My father and another officer respond to unknown deranged individual, very long rap sheet, has been in and out of psychiatric care for years, sitting on the front porch holding a double-sided wood splitting axe. Steam is coming off the grass and there are chunks lying all over the lawn. Upon interviewing the suspect, he admits that he and a friend were playing poker. The suspect was losing nearly every hand and came to the conclusion that his friend was a haint, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Southern for ghost, and was cheating him. The suspect grabbed the axe, chased his friend outside, and hacked him into dozens of pieces, thus causing the warm blood to create steam on the grass. My dad tells the suspect that he needs to get in the police car because it's ghost-proof. He said the suspect dropped the axe, sprinted to get to the back seat while thanking him for helping him. TLDR, my father convinced an axe murderer to get into his cop car because it was ghost-proof. That story was submitted by 17herpderp from Reddit. And before I go into my bonus story, I do have to mention I am revising these stories a little bit more for flow, so if you're reading the screen and you see the words on the screen and they're not matching what I'm saying, that's the reason. I'm trying to make it a little bit easier to absorb as a listener. Here's our bonus story. Not quite a devil worshipper. Not my call, but my dad served for 25 years. Wasn't really a ghost story, but I think it's worth telling. One night, he gets a call from a woman who says her neighbor has made a pact with the devil. The woman calling is about 35 and a religious wacko. The neighbor she was calling about was about 75 at the time. My dad went over, knocked on the door, and the old lady answers. All happy, nice place decorated the same way for the past 50 years. She invites my dad in without even asking why he came. Makes him coffee, asks how his day was. Naturally, at this point, my dad is wondering what the heck the call was about, but it came clear soon. At some point, my dad realizes he isn't the only person she's talking to, and that she thinks her apartment is full of people. My dad thanks her for the coffee, and she tells him to come back anytime. The whole time she was talking, he even wrote down the names of the people she was talking to, and then did some research on his own when he got back. Turns out, she was talking to family members who were all dead. She had a daughter, 3 sons, a brother, and a husband, all dead, and she had no family and no friends. She hadn't spoken to another person in years. Her groceries were delivered, and she rarely left her apartment. Over the next 19 years, my dad took care of her. My sister and I came over all the time and just sat and talked with her. She even taught me how to cook. Over the years, she stabilized and stopped talking to her dead relatives. She just needed people to live with. She actually lived till she was 94 and died in the guest room of my parents' house. Since it had become harder for them to take care of her from a distance, she had to get closer to the end. She was like a grandma for us. TLDR. Not cold about devil contacting old lady turned into a great part of my whole family life and one of the few moments that make me think humanity can be good. That story was submitted to Reddit by user Chained Wolf. I really enjoyed that last story because it kind of shows you what you might look from the outside and assume something is something, and it actually is something completely different. And if you could just open your eyes a little bit more, you might be able to see humanity. You might be able to help somebody in need like this woman. Hey guys, anyway, that was it for me today. I hope you enjoyed all of these stories, the 3 stories in the bonus. And if you want more like these, let me know in the comments below. Your sub is super important to me. Keeps telling me that you guys want to keep hearing me and you want to hear more of these stories. So please go ahead and subscribe. Comment below with what your favorite paranormal experience was or what made you change your mind about the paranormal. Anyway, have fun. Till next time. Thank you for joining me here at Historical Conspiracies. Have a creepy night.